Welcome to our online English class. In today's class, we are going to learn an interesting story. The title of today's story is Sindbad, My First Voyage. Before starting the class, let's know the introduction of this story. Come on.
Sindbad the sailor is a fictional mariner and the hero of a story cycle of Middle Eastern origin. He is described as a man from Baghdad. In the course of 7 voyages throughout the sea east of Africa and south of Asia, he has fantastic adventures in magical realms, encountering monsters and witnessing supernatural phenomena. Now, let's get into the story. Students, take page number 97 and read the text along with me. In this extract, the Rich Sindbad describes his first voyage to the poor Sindbad porter. My father was a rich merchant. When he died, I was still young. He left behind a big wealth. However, I was an inexperienced, thoughtless youth and spent all his wealth foolishly.
In this extract, Rich Sindbad explains his experience in his first voyage to a poor Sindbad. He tells his father died when Sindbad was a young boy. When he was young, his father died, but he left back many wealth. He was a rich merchant, so when his father died, there was much richness with Sindbad. As Sindbad was a youngish boy, he spent all his wealth. Come on, let's read the next paragraph, what happened in Sindbad's life.
I returned to my senses only after the loss of all the wealth. I decided to sail for the Persian Gulf with some goods. Our group sailed from one country to another selling the goods. One day, when we were on board, we saw a beautiful small green island. Just to have some fun, we all got down on the green patch. We were hungry and so we decided to cook some food there. As soon as we lit the fire for cooking, we got a jerk. The island was trembling. It was no island, it was the back of a huge animal, which got disturbed when the fire was lit on his back. We were terrified when we realized this. Everyone jumped into the sea to save his life. Most of them boarded the ship, but a few were not so fortunate. Before they could climb up, the captain started the ship hurriedly, leaving behind a few sailors who were still struggling in the sea for their life. I was one among those strugglers. Fortunately, I caught hold of a big piece of wood floating near and held on to it.
Sindbad realized that he has lost all his father's wealth, so he decided to do trade. He went to Persian Gulf with goods. He sailed with other sailors and they went to many countries. One day, they saw a beautiful piece of green island. What is an island? Piece of land which was covered on the 4 sides with water, isn't it? So they decided to get down in the island. So they stopped the ship and all the sailors, they got on the island. They were very happy and they decided to cook something. They lit the fire on the island. They placed everything and they lit the fire. Immediately the island started to tremble. They were all very scared. Do you know? Actually, it was not an island. It was a huge animal. So everyone they were very scared. They trembled, and few sailors they jumped into the sea, and other few they ran and they boarded the ship. And the ship captain he immediately started the ship and he went away. And other few were struggling. They don't know what to do. They are in the sea. And unfortunately, Sindbad was one among them. He was struggling, and at that time he got a wooden piece. Immediately he held the wooden piece. You all know, isn't it? Wood, they won't sink. They'll float in the water. Similarly, now Sindbad is floating in the sea holding the wooden piece. In the next paragraph, let's see what happened to Sindbad.
Students, take page number 98 and read the first paragraph along with me. I was being tossed by the powerful sea waves, but I held on to the wood and kept floating for a long time. At last, I was thrown on an island. I was very tired and extremely hungry, but on the island there was nothing to eat except a few herbs. Due to the continuous struggle in the sea water, my limbs became stiff and refused to move. I somehow managed to crawl to get a few herbs. I ate them and quenched my thirst from a spring on the island.
This poor Sindbad was tossed by the powerful waves. He was still struggling in the sea, but he didn't let the wood go. He just held it very tightly and he was floating. At last, after a great struggle, the Sindbad reached an island. His limbs were very painful and he couldn't stand up and walk. He crawled in the island. He was very hungry, but he couldn't find anything to eat there except few herbs. What he did is he ate the herbs and he quenched his thirst drinking some water from a spring. Come on, let's see whether Sindbad was rescued from this island. Let's read the next paragraph now.
As I walked further in this strange land, I met a man. The man asked me where I had come from and who I was. I poured out my misfortune to him. The man felt pity when he heard my sad story. He took me inside a cave. There were a number of men present. They were all slaves of the king of the island. Those men were kind. They served me good food and drink and treated me well.
Sindbad felt better after eating this herb and drinking some water. He walked further and there he met a man. He poured out his misfortune. He said all his misfortune stories to the man. The man felt sympathy for this Sindbad and he said, "You come along with me." And he took him to a cave. Inside the cave there were many men. Actually, they were all slaves of a king. He was given good food and drink and he was treated well. Come on, let's read the next paragraph now.
Later on, they produced me in front of the king Mirjan, who was the ruler of the island. I narrated my tale of suffering and hardship to the king. The king was a noble and kind person. He sympathized with me and appointed me as an officer on the spot.
Sindbad was produced in front of the king of the island. Sindbad narrated his sufferings and hardship to the king. The king felt really sorry for this Sindbad and he appointed Sindbad as an officer in his kingdom.
Students, today we'll stop our class here. We'll continue this lesson in our next video.
I hope you all enjoyed this story. To check your understanding, homework is given on the board. Kindly complete your homework on time and send it to your teacher without fail. With this note, I am winding up today's class. I meet you all in my next class. Until then, it's bye from Viva ma'am.